everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to hop straight into our next part of our story. And remember, we are still on workshop 3 and we are reading The Lottery. So I'm going to log in right here. And just like last week, this week your only job is to read the story and answer the questions that go along with it. And today we are on page 140 and 141. So just like we always do, we're going to look at the questions first, and then we'll get reading. What happens in this section of the story? How does Mr. Summers feel about his role in the lottery? Use words from the text to support your answer. How do Jack Watson and Mr. Adams react during the lottery? What does their behavior suggest about how they feel about the tradition? Okay, let's get reading. Well now, Mr. Summers said soberly, guess we better get started, get this over with so that we can go back to work. Anybody ain't here? Dunbar, several people said. Dunbar, Dunbar. Mr. Summers consulted his list. Clyde Dunbar, he said. That's right. He's broke his leg, hasn't he? Who's drawing for him? Me, I guess, a woman said, and Mr. Summers turned to look at her. Wife draws for her husband, Mr. Summers said. Don't you have a grown boy to do it for you, Janie? Although Mr. Summers and everyone else in the village knew the answer perfectly well, it was the business of the official of the lottery to ask such questions formally. Mr. Summers waited with an expression of polite interest while Mrs. Dunbar answered. Horace is not but 16 yet, Mrs. Dunbar said regretfully. Guess I gotta fill in for the old man this year. Right, Mr. Summers said. He made a note on the list he was holding. Then he asked, Watson boy drawing this year? A tall boy in the crowd raised his hand. Here, he said. I'm drawing for my mother and me. He blinked his eyes nervously and ducked his head as several voices in the crowd said things like, Good fellow, Jack, and Glad to see your mother's got a man to do it. Well, Mr. Summers said, guess that's everyone. Old man Warner make it? Here, a voice said, and Mr. Summers nodded. So here's pictures of them drawing names from that black box. A sudden hush fell on the crowd as Mr. Summers cleared his throat and looked at the list. All ready, he called. Now I'll read the names, heads of families first, and the men come up and take a paper out of the box. Keep the paper folded in your hand without looking at it until everyone has had a turn. Everything clear? The people had done it so many times that they only half listened to the directions. Most of them were quiet, wetting their lips, not looking around. Then Mr. Summers raised one hand high and said, Adams? A man disengaged himself from the crowd and came forward. Hi, Steve, Mr. Summers said, and Mr. Adams said, Hi, Joe. They grinned at one another humorlessly and nervously. Then Mr. Adams reached into the black box and took out a folded paper. He held it firmly by one corner as he turned and went hastily back to his place in the crowd, where he stood a little apart from his family, not looking down at his hand. Allen, Mr. Summers said. Anderson, Bentham. Okay, so after you watch this video and read along with me, you are going to go into your Google document and you are going to answer these 3 questions. This is the only assignment you have for this week. And if you get stuck on it, or if you have any questions, or if you just want me to help you with it, just let me know and you can come to my Zoom meetings, or you are free to just email me if you have any questions too, okay? All right, I hope I see you guys soon and I hope you guys are all doing okay.